In 1969, the University of Iowa accomplished something it had been working 80 years for. The athletic department finally had its first national championship winning team. This huge accomplishment didn't occur by any of the large sports at the university. It wasn't football, basketball, or the now storied wrestlers. It was the small men's gymnastics team. Even though this was a huge accomplishment for the gymnasts and the university as a whole, it went virtually unnoticed. Due to bad timing and civil rights problems emerging in the Iowa athletics department, this championship team hardly even made a splash in the media and the conversations of those in Iowa City. From the start of the 1969 men's gymnastics season, the competition proved tough. The Iowa men's team had made the NCAA championship tournament the year prior in 1968. They knew that they had their work cut out for them if they were going to do it again. The men showed resiliency throughout the season and proved to themselves and everyone else that they deserved to be a top team in the upcoming NCAA tournament. There was one major rule change during the 1969 season that helped the Iowa men's team to secure a spot in the national championship tournament. The NCAA removed the trampoline apparatus from the competition. There were now 6 events the men would compete in instead of the prior 7 events. This helped Iowa particularly because the University of Michigan's strongest event was the trampoline. There were 8 schools that would advance to the NCAA tournament, including the University of Iowa. There were 2 days of competition to decide an NCAA national championship team. The first day being a preliminary competition that would eliminate 5 teams from the tournament and would advance 3 to the final day. Only Penn State, Iowa State, and none other than the University of Iowa would advance to the finals to decide the national champion. Going into the finals, Iowa knew that Penn State held a slight lead, but the Hawkeyes were up to the challenge. The entire Hawkeye team put up near-perfect performances in the tight competition. The national championship was in reach for the Hawkeyes, and it would come down to the very last routine on the parallel bars for the Hawkeyes to win. The final routine was performed flawlessly and propelled the Hawkeyes to their first national championship. However, it was a very close competition. The Hawkeyes barely edged out Penn State with a score of 161.1 to 160.4, a margin of less than 1 point. Unfortunately, for the men, they weren't greeted with the celebrations and applause one would think. The men returned to Iowa City while the rest of the campus was on spring break. Iowa City was a ghost town. Because of this, the accomplishment wasn't immediately known to those in the Iowa City area. However, there was another problem in the athletics department at Iowa that quickly overshadowed the national championship. On April 16th, 2 days after spring classes began, the football team made headlines for purportedly discriminating against its players. Iowa coach Ray Nagel confirmed that 2 African American starters had been dismissed for personal problems. Shortly after, 16 of 20 black players boycotted practice because of this. They were all immediately kicked off the team. The black players claimed that there were intolerable situations for all black people at the University of Iowa. Only 8 days after this incident, the former football players formed a black athletes union and presented a letter to the public. This letter bashed the football program at the university and compared the coach-to-player relationship to that of a slave and ownership relationship. This obviously sparked major political, social, and media controversy for months after the initial incident. It's no wonder the national champions got pushed aside, with civil rights issues popping up only days after the accomplishment. A member of the 1969 team said about the championship, "I don't think it hit us that we'd made history until Al Grady had an article in the newspaper a week or 2 afterwards. We were excited, but it didn't really dawn on us. My God, what did we do?" Years later, I read Al's book and realized that our little meet was nothing compared to the civil rights movement. No wonder it got lost. However, 40 years later, these outstanding athletes got the long overdue recognition that they deserved. 40 years after winning the national championship, national champion Keith McCandless rediscovered some film from his cherished national championship meet. He took the old film and recreated it into a DVD to share with his teammates. McCandless thought that his teammates might enjoy the idea of a 40-year reunion. So, he emailed the new men's gymnastics head coach of the time, Tom Dunn, and asked about a reunion at the University of Iowa. Tom Dunn loved the idea and helped organize the reunion. Almost all coaches and team members of the 1969 team were able to attend the reunion. Tom Dunn was so excited about the reunion that he was able to get the ball rolling. He not only organized the reunion, but was able to get the team on the football field before the 2009 season opener. The 1969 men's national championship gymnastics team finally got the recognition that they deserved, only 40 years late. I was interested in researching the 1969 men's gymnastics team because I recently had the opportunity to meet the majority of the championship winning team. The team returned to the University of Iowa to celebrate its fourth member being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Neil Schmidt was inducted into the 2015 class of the Hall of Fame. While the team was in town, they visited the gym while my team was practicing. The men were telling us stories about their time practicing in the same facility that we were then practicing. It is in the same building, but has been recently renovated. We got to hear stories of a national championship team from the champions themselves. We learned so much about how the sport has evolved and changed, and the old team enjoyed seeing how gymnastics has evolved over the years. We found out that these men aren't so different from us. They went through college the same, they trained the same, and they won the same. These men were excited to see what the future of Iowa holds in the men's gymnastics sport. These athletes were passionate about their sport, the same as we are today. The 1969 men's gymnastics team is truly a story to be told. However, it is very unknown to most of those outside the sport of gymnastics and outside of those who study the athletics at the University of Iowa. The team is historically significant to the University of Iowa because it was the first team to win a national championship. The team that nobody saw coming to win a national championship had done the impossible. 80 years in the making, and Iowa had its first NCAA national championship winning team. Who would have thought it would have been the male gymnasts, 14 members of a small team, to win this prestigious award? The Hawkeyes' accomplishments and national championship were overshadowed by controversies of the time. However, their titles and their legacy will last forever at the University of Iowa.